Ancient Egyptian hand-beaded dresses were masterpieces of artistry and symbolism, reflecting the sophistication of one of history's most remarkable civilizations. These garments, often worn by royalty and the elite, date back to at least the Old Kingdom and were crafted with meticulous attention to detail. Artisans used materials like faience, glass, gold, and semi-precious stones such as lapis lazuli and turquoise to create intricate beadwork. The beads were carefully strung or woven into linen or other fabrics, forming geometric patterns, floral motifs, and religious symbols. The beads not only enhanced the wearer's beauty, but also symbolized light, divinity, and rebirth, key themes in Egyptian cosmology. These dresses were more than just clothing. They were statements of power, spirituality, and connection to the gods. Today, their timeless beauty continues to captivate us, offering a glimpse into the artistry and cultural richness of ancient Egypt. The blue lotus, or Nymphaea caerulea, was deeply revered in ancient Egyptian culture. It symbolized creation, rebirth, and the cycle of the sun, as its flowers bloomed each morning and closed at night. The lotus was associated with the sun god, Ra, and was often depicted in art, architecture, and rituals. It was believed to have medicinal and psychoactive properties, used in ceremonies to induce a state of spiritual enlightenment. The blue lotus also represented purity and the promise of eternal life, making it a common motif in tombs and temples. For the ancient Egyptians, this sacred flower was a bridge between the earthly and the divine. Ancient Egyptians wore and crafted broad collars, known as wesek collars, for both practical and symbolic reasons. These elaborate necklaces, often made of beads, gold, semi-precious stones, or faience, were more than just decorative. They held deep cultural and spiritual significance. Broad collars were worn by royalty, nobility, and the elite as symbols of status, wealth, and divine favor. They were also believed to offer protection, with their materials and colors carrying magical properties to ward off evil. Additionally, broad collars were associated with the gods and the afterlife, often depicted in tomb art and placed on mummies to ensure the deceased's safe passage and eternal beauty in the next world. In essence, they were a blend of luxury, spirituality, and power. Modern broad collars, often sold on platforms like Etsy, can sometimes be overpriced for what they are. In my opinion, they shouldn't cost more than $30, as many are made with cheap subpar beads from China or India. While they mimic the look of ancient Egyptian designs, their quality often doesn't match the price, making them more of a trendy accessory than a lasting piece of craftsmanship. When I first started this project, I was considering purchasing some bead embroidery to match some of the dresses and necklaces that I was making. There are so many Egyptian revival styles of beadwork that are very popular, and they're so well done and well thought out. Here are some of my favorite designers. Ultimately, I decided against purchasing and customizing a piece with a designer, but I still thought it was important to show other ways that weavers have been inspired by Egyptian spiritual imagery. I did, however, opt into ordering a custom set of epaulettes to accompany the dress I made.
So I just came from the post office where I picked up my custom piece from Olga that we collaborated together to make for my Egyptian revival project. Here are the chains that come with the designs. I am going to make alternative seed bead chains to match the coloring scheme of the pieces.
I decided to research as many designs as possible to accompany the largest piece for the project. This was one of 5 necklaces I created, and all were a success, except one, which I'll talk about later. I wanted to mimic their style of collars, but there really aren't any tutorials on ancient Egyptian weaving, so I really had to wing it. I was inspired to add these howlite spikes, check daggers, and vintage fan beads that reminded me of ancient Egyptian collars I'd already seen. I liked how this turned out. I carefully selected a stunning array of materials, each chosen for its unique beauty and cultural significance. I began with handmade artisan check beads, including scarabs and hieroglyphs, which pay homage to the rich symbolism of ancient Egypt. Vintage ceramic beads added a touch of timeless elegance, while lotus and lily beads brought in the sacred floral motifs deeply rooted in Egyptian spirituality. To create intricate detailing, I incorporated Miyuki and Toho seed beads, known for their precision and vibrant colors. African turquoise and Czech Picasso beads introduced earthy, natural tones with a touch of artistry. For texture and depth, I included crazy lace agate with its mesmerizing patterns, and fossil jasper, which carries the ancient energy of the earth itself. Together, these materials have come to life in my Egyptian revival project, blending historical inspiration with modern craftsmanship to celebrate the enduring legacy of ancient Egypt in a truly unique and meaningful way.
So I am super excited about how this project is coming out so far. I have enlisted the help of 3 of the most creative people I know to bring this project to life, which are Jillian from Cultr Collective, Nicole Barton of Nicole Barton Photography, and our muse named Mia. Now, I really enjoy working with Nicole. This is going to be our 3rd or 4th photo shoot. She is one of the first photographers I've ever worked with who really understood my vision and what I was hoping to accomplish, and I'm really so grateful to be working with her again after what seems like, and what most likely has been 5 years since we last worked together. So yeah, I've been working steadily on all the pieces, and I think I have one more that I'm finishing, and then it's go time.
So the first thing I actually needed to do was separate the beads by their same size. Although they were technically all on the same strand of beads, they varied wildly in between being too short or being just right. I separated the ones that were different and lined up the ones that were exactly the same, and began my base weaving. This base would be the foundation for which I do the netting that connects the top of the dress. So this is the bottom row that will make up the part of the dress that will be connected at the bottom and at the top. Here is how it looks once I've finished all the in-between pieces, or row pieces. These are the jasper and seed beads, that I'm going to be using to build this as well as these crystal beads. Once I began this process, I realized that it was actually very difficult to put this pattern together, and it doesn't flow or hang correctly. It did not lay right. I'm not sure if that's how it was originally found, or if it was a recreation from pieces that they found in the tomb. It was very wonky, or just wasn't proportioned. So I took it apart and went back to the drawing table, literally. So what I did was I drew out measurements roughly from the bottom of the breast to the top of the shoulder using my mannequin, and started joining the pieces together that I had made. There were a lot of missing layers because they were spaced out by size, so I had to start adding layer and layer in between the ones that I had already created. This is what the piece looks like when it's finished, and I tied it to the bottom base and began weaving the second row as well, or the second breastplate. Now that both breastplates are finished, I needed to begin weaving the bottom half of the dress. I used a mix of Japanese seed beads and Czech seed beads that have gone out of press, meaning I've searched for them for years without finding them again. I think it's fitting that these last precious beads of mine, like priceless beads from ancient pieces I'm inspired by, would end up on a statement piece like this one. Also, the blue lotus glass beads I used came in an array of color that I used to match the same fringe style that were used on my reference piece for this dress. Full disclosure, the crystal beads I used to make the dress cost $500 and wasn't even enough to complete a fully rounded piece. I was stunned. While modern beads are often a mix of hand and machine cutting, ancient artisans would have spent countless hours shaving, smoothing, molding, and piercing the beads needed to complete dresses like these. After 30 hours of weaving, here is the final result.
So I've actually been looking for over an hour for a very particular bead that I just cannot track down no matter what. It is a top to bottom vertical pear-shaped ivory cream color bead, and I found everything under the sun except this thing. I feel like it's impossible. I want to recreate as close as possible this very elaborate collar that is an ancient design. I actually understand the pattern looking at it, but now I just want to really hone in on the beads and figure out how I'm going to recreate this design.
My favorite piece, and arguably the big standout from this whole collection, was a beaded collar modeled after the jewelry of Queen Amanishakheto. Amanishetto was a Kandake of Kush, which was the Meroitic language term for queen, or possibly royal woman. She seems to have reigned from 10 BC to 1 AD, although most dates of Kushite history before the Middle Ages are very uncertain. Although the Nubians and Kushites don't get enough credit for their influence on Egyptian architecture and style, they have not been forgotten. These days, Amanishetto is best known for a collection of jewelry found in her pyramid in 1834 by Italian grave robber Giuseppe Ferlini, who destroyed the pyramid in search of its burial goods. These pieces are now in the Egyptian Museum of Berlin and in the Egyptian Museum of Munich, which kind of pisses me off because they shouldn't be. This collar took me 22 hours to complete, not including the hours from when I had to begin the design over. Initially, I tried to recreate the weaving pattern used in the original collar, which I think was a right angle weave or chevron stitch. Unfortunately, this did not work. I decided to start this piece with a piece of round African turquoise and howlite beads. I paired them with Japanese seed beads, which have a slightly irregular shape that I favor for more natural or ethnocentric beadwork. Once the base design had taken on a look I liked, I began weaving more layers of round howlite and African turquoise beads into the pattern. Once I was finished, I began weaving the larger part of the necklace. Unfortunately, this looked like shit, and I didn't realize until I had beaded over 50% of the necklace. Beading is a strange science of circumference and numbers that I have mastered in my own way. However, I'm self-taught, and there are truly no exact how-to guides to take me through the steps of how to avoid technical errors like the one I made. So I had to take it apart and start back at the base with another idea. I painstakingly separated the beads into their own respective piles before I made my third and thankfully final attempt at completing this Queen Amanishakheto inspired Nubian beaded necklace. Here is the final piece, right before I began adding my signature touches. To be honest, this necklace was the most striking and easily the biggest standout piece from the project. I really like the Faience beaded necklaces I researched. Faience beads are ancient, glazed non-clay ceramic beads made primarily from crushed quartz or sand, coated in a brightly colored vitreous, glass-like glaze. I like how after being hidden away in some royal tomb for hundreds of years, these beads still have a striking blue color. This is my homage to these collars in a mini-netted version. I loved some of the earth-toned Faience necklaces I discovered as well. I created this version using some of my best, and I mean best Japanese and Czech seed beads, as well as some handmade Czech crystals that I bought the last of when I found them. Let's talk about a failed mission. I know you just heard me say I was inspired by this Faience necklace. I wanted to take it a step further and really make a large turquoise-colored piece that would go past the shoulder. I don't know what I did wrong. I'm not sure if it's the string I used or what, but this piece I made it too tight. So tight that if you would try to gently pull to form it around the neck, it would snap. Beadwork is tight, but not so tight that it should snap. I worked on this for about 20 hours on 2 versions, but ultimately I gave up to finish the other pieces for the collection. The uraeus cobra, ancient Egypt's ultimate symbol of divine protection, finds new life in these contemporary earrings. African turquoise channels Wadjet's role as guardian, while lapis lazuli echoes the sacred stones adorning temple artifacts. Precision-cut Czech-faceted beads replicate the play of light on Nile waters, a technique perfected by Egyptian jewelers millennia ago. More than adornment, this is wearable archaeology, transforming museum-quality symbolism into living tradition. The bolty fish, or tilapia, common in the Nile Valley since ancient times, is easily recognized by its long dorsal fin. The fish, which hatches its eggs in its mouth, was a symbol of regeneration and was also associated with the goddess Hathor and the sun god Re. This dish features a cartouche just behind the gill containing the throne name of Thutmose III, Menkaperre, and inspired me to make these agate earrings. I couldn't pass them up as soon as I saw them, remembering these carved fishes from the past. Another symbol featured heavily throughout this project is the scarab, representing ascension and eternal life. This symbol is most important to me.